Marnie Glickman.
Jason Joyce, look who, we're back.
We're back. It's live on Facebook, KHOP88, Tuesday night. And we're joined by Hopkins High football legends.
Jason Joyce, look who, we're back.
We're back. It's live on Facebook.
Oh no.
We're awakening the echoes of Royals football past. Marnie, do you want to start off with anything before we get going here?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Jason. I am just so excited to be here and so grateful to our special sports correspondent, Eric Haugen, for organizing yet another amazing show. And I wanted to thank all of you watching, all of you guys for participating. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thanks, Eric, for pulling it all together. We'll start with so some of you guys have been on before, some have not. So let's check in first with the guys who are new to KHOP88. So we'll start with Mark Lamp, who's practically my neighbor here in Madison, Wisconsin. Mark, what the hell do you do in Madison? And tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, let's see. So I've been in Madison since '97. I'm married. I have two boys, 15 and 12, and they're involved in everything possible. So I coach. We're traveling quite a bit before the pandemic, a little bit now. Personally and professionally in business, I travel a lot. I'm in healthcare. And I was just left a baseball game tonight. Now I got it on my phone. So I'm watching my son's out in the field right now. So staying quite busy and making plans with you, obviously, after this show.
That's I love that now that you can, like, they have these apps where you can monitor baseball games on your phone, right, throughout the whole thing. It's fantastic. Or not.
Right.
All right. What position did you play when you played football at Hopkins?
So I was part of the linebacking crew, and I think there's a few of them on here. I know Haugen, Brian, Munson, Tommy. I think you were too. So I was a linebacker and special teams. I don't think I played much offense. They kept me away from that. So yeah, primarily on D.
Okay. Excelente. All right, Rob Reed.
Yep.
Rob, where are you signing in from?
So I'm still here back where it all started, man. Still in Minnetonka, like about, I don't know, down in Glen Lake area. Been working at the same place, selling trucks, doing whatever, general manager, sales manager, whatever it takes. Got two kids, got an 18-year-old son who tried his hand in Minnetonka at playing hockey there, and a little bit of baseball. He's going to take off to CSU here in the fall, Colorado. And then my daughter, he's 18, my daughter's 15. She's taller than me, so she's 6'1". So she's in the basketball deal here. So
wow,
kind of following her around the country this year, just doing different tournaments and stuff. So
cool.
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. So Rob, you learned the game the right way from Larry Fugelston at Gatewood.
For sure, right? Yeah.
And what position were you playing when you were a senior at Hopkins?
So my position gives grab ass a whole new definition, because I played center for pretty much my entire 15 years playing football. So I'm kind of used to guys grab my ass a little. So
I do remember
had a little defense, but
it's great.
Not much.
I remember two things about Rob Reed playing football at Gatewood Elementary. One was on the day that you went around and he asked everybody what position they wanted to play, and they asked Rob what position he wanted to play, and you said tailback.
Yeah.
And Fugelston said, "Yeah, right, center and nose guard." And then I remember he also made you and John O'Keddy go stand outside and practice snaps while the rest of us could dink around at recess.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tom Munson, where are you? And tell us your family situation.
So I live in Maple Grove. I've got 4 boys. One's 21, 22. One's 20. One's graduating, so he's 18, and one's 15, who's a freshman. Two of them went through Wayzata High School. This one's just about done with Wayzata, thank goodness. He's going to go down to Colorado State for school. And then my first one is at NDSU. He's graduating in the winter next year, so he's just about done. My second one, who's 21, no, he's 20. He's graduating from a school called UTI out of Aurora, Colorado, or excuse me, Illinois, and he's going to be a diesel mechanic. And then so we're kind of running through all the sports stuff. We're kind of finishing it up and realizing that if I will always kick my kids out farther west, because the politics of these big schools is horrible. But it's a good school, I get that, but if your kids are in sports, it's really, really difficult, no matter what sport they play.
So all boys, Tom.
All boys.
And what was your position at Hopkins?
I was an outside linebacker with Brian. He and I were on opposite sides, and it was kind of fun to see him. I hadn't seen Brian in, geez.
It's been a long time, Tom.
Maybe since we walked out of high school. I mean, Tony, same thing. Rob, same thing. Mark.
See you guys soon.
I might have seen Mark a time or two, and I've seen maybe Eric at Lesage's house a time or two, but other than that, I haven't seen most of these guys since we walked out of high school, which is horrible, but this is awesome. We get to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, you went to Meadowbrook with me, right?
Yes, I did.
And what street did you grow up on?
So I was on Kentucky.
Okay.
And you were what, like 4 blocks
Nevada
west of me?
Yeah.
Yep. So we grew up real close.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom still lives there. I don't know if your folks are still there.
No, they split, but it's cool to have the Meadowbrook connection.
Yep.
Marty, we can't do a K-Hop show without a Meadowbrook connection.
No.
Not at all.
This is good. I think we've got a lot of the schools repped here. All right, Rich Lindstrom, zooming in from upstate New York.
Right.
Catch us up on what's going on.
Well, I've lived here for, most of the last 20 years, except for 3 years when I lived in Chicago going to law school. And at the moment, I'm working for a federal judge as a law clerk at the trial court level. And we just today had our yesterday started our first trial in over a year because of COVID. So it's been sort of exciting that way. Other than that, I'm married. I don't have any children. And I don't know what else to say.
Well, what was your position at Hopkins?
I was an offensive tackle.
Fantastic. We'll get into this in a little bit because I want to talk about the offensive line coach at Hopkins High School with you in a little bit.
Yes.
You have fond memories, I'm sure. Tony Burback, coming to us from just over the border in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's Waxhaw, North Carolina, which is just a suburb of Charlotte, pretty much right on the state line with South Carolina. I've been in North Carolina for 21 years as of this past March, 11 of them here in Waxhaw. My daughter just turned 11, and she is pushing 5'8" at 2 months into being 11 years old. So Daddy wants a scholarship when she gets older. And as I mentioned earlier, I think before the show started, it's like, I was in TV for 22 years, got out, been doing, working for a publishing company for 6 years. And, I honestly don't miss the snow and cold that you guys were talking about. happy to be here. It's home now. And position wise, offensive lineman, tackle, tight end, defense, defensive tackle, and special teams, etc. Just like hitting people.
It's good. It's a good attribute. Eric Haugen, coming to us from New England. We're going to save Olson and Keane because they were they were just on last week. But catch us up for those who didn't tune into your episode. What's your household like up there?
We've been up here for 10 years. I'm still working in sports media. Married to Nina. Our daughter Karina is 11 and in 5th grade. Not much of a jock really at all. She does karate and Girl Scouts and some musical stuff. So, I never thought I'd end up living in Boston. I thought New York would be much more likely, but it's really kind of grown to be home for us. We like it a lot up here.
Hey, Eric. Didn't you do something with ESPN for quite a few years?
Yeah, my first job out of college was at ESPN. I worked at ESPN for 7 years, left there for a number of different reasons, kind of bounced around for a few jobs after I got an MBA and then was out of TV, got back into TV. And then I've been up at Nesson for the last 10 years up here, which we carry the Red Sox and the Bruins and a lot of local college athletics as well.
Sports stuff.
Yeah, still sports. Yeah, sports TV, sports media.
Cool.
Fantastic. Okay, so St. Louis Park, Minnesota, Brian Olson.
Yeah. So living in St. Louis Park, let's see, for about 23, 24 years now. Been married to my wife for 22. Got 2 kids. One that's a sophomore at St. Olaf, plays football down there. And my daughter's a senior at St. Louis Park High School, and she's going to go to the U.S. Air Force Academy in the fall. So actually in a few weeks, she goes to basic training. So
wow.
So yeah, cool. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, I work in healthcare and work for Optum. Been doing that for 8-9 years now too. So
all right, we didn't get Haugen's position other than secondary.
I played my junior year. I played outside linebacker, and then senior year I moved inside. Played next. I hope Wade shows up, but I played next to Wade Matson.
And Olson, you were an outside linebacker?
Yeah, Jason, you've got like the smartest part of the whole entire team. You either have linebackers who had to be smart or you had like offensive linemen. And then there's Jim Keane. And that was, so we pretty much have it covered with the smart part. And then there's Jim.
I dumbed it down a bit.
It's a fantastic introduction to Jim Keane, who of course joined us at Hopkins High School junior year and then promptly blew out his leg. But Jim, tell us where you are and what your situation is there in Colorado.
Yeah, so I live in Denver. I've been here for just over 17 years. I've been married to my wife, Katie, who I met in college. So we've been married 26 years. We have 3 kids. Our oldest is 24, graduated.
Hey, why aren't you on this call?
Down in San Diego, and he lives down there. He's Ryan, our middle son, Michael, goes to Miami of Ohio, and he's actually graduating this weekend. So we're actually heading back to Ohio this weekend.
How's it going?
And our youngest daughter is 18, and she's a freshman over at TCU. So house is empty, but now one's back. So
when you get home, jump
now
on.
I'm having to by 11 o'clock in the morning, hey, is it time to wake up yet?
Bye.
Go do your thing. So I'm in sales. I work for Capital One. I head up a sales division for that group. And what else? I think that's it.
Let me see if I can remember. You were running back, but I forget which kind. Fullback, halfback, tailback?
I guess tailback.
Okay.
And I played a little bit of defense, not much. And I was the one that actually ran up Robbie's ass most of the time. So more or less, right, Robbie? So I don't know if that was good or bad, but I think my face mask is probably sellable in your tail.
High and dry senior year, right?
I know.
So when you guys started as sophomores, Bennettary was the coach, correct? Head coach.
Yeah.
Tell me, let's see here. Let's start with Rich. What was it like first day, show up to practice Hopkins High School as sophomores? Tell me a little bit about that, and tell me if you can remember at all your feelings as a sophomore showing up to play high school football.
I mean, I think it was exciting and scary at the same time. I mean, because all of a sudden it was twice the number of guys, and you're like, oh, I'm like, are we going to get to play? Who are these other guys that we play with? I think at West we kind of felt like we're small, so we're looking around to see if there were any great big guys, and hoping that they could enhance the team. But the thing I remember most was these stupid sports psychology stuff that Bennettary made us do. You laughed at Brian. Right? Who's that guy? It was some
Warner.
Warner. Yeah.
Well,
And
did he leave his imprint on the football team as well? That's
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, until McDonald showed up and then get out of here, you know. But I remember
So
they were wondering what the hell this is about, you know.
was this Rob Reed two-a-days at this point in sophomore year? Did you guys practice twice a day that first?
Yeah, you know, we had 2-a-days in the summer, and that was kind of like, you know, you're just kind of like, okay, and then the 2-a-days the morning, and then the afternoon, you're like, you know, what is going on here? This is, you know, and it's just hot, you know. The beginning of football is always hot, and the beginning is always cold. You know, you show up at these captains' practices. I just remember seeing like Jesse Tauges, you know, and he's just like ripped, and these guys are big and they're cut and they're just quick, and you're like, oh boy, you know. But yeah, it was okay. I mean, you know, as soon as captains practice over, the rest of the season's downhill, right? Just go down to one practice a day.
We didn't have any guys that were that big in our grade. You had Trent, what was it about Steele?
Steele.
Yeah.
And then you had Jesse Tauges, who looked like he was a 27-year-old bodybuilder. He was only 17, 18 years old. And then you got us guys that were not that into lifting.
Right.
Burbeck, who was the sophomore coach?
The sophomore coach?
Jeez.
Was it McDonald or Bennettary McDonald? And I don't know, you talk about offensive line coach was Bankston.
When you guys were sophomores, did you play on a sophomore team or a JV team? And who was in charge?
Yeah, sophomore.
Played the sophomore team, but then also dressed occasionally for varsity. And yeah, I just remember, I don't remember all their names. I remember, hopefully I've gotten the names right of coaches, but.
Was it Robinson?
I think it was.
He was the OC, wasn't it? Coach Bakken, I think, was the head sophomore coach. Remember, like we had that Coach Clay. I think he was like a recent college graduate. He might have even been a student teacher.
Yeah.
Those were kind of the two main sophomore guys.
Yeah,
right?
Eric, I think he went to Ripon College, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember him always talking about going to Ripon.
I don't remember that.
He had a weird vibe.
So at what point did you guys separate out into being sophomores, into playing just with the sophomores? And was there a tone set there by Bakken as the coach? Munson, do you remember?
Well, if I was going to remember, I don't think they really brought a lot of people up back in the day, at least not as sophomores.
Not back then.
JV was for varsity seniors that didn't make varsity, and they played JV, and then they were for juniors. Sophomore was sophomore, and that was it. When you were a junior, then you had a chance to be on the bench or play for varsity and JV. But sophomores, you were pretty much locked in, right, guys? On the sophomore team.
Playing 10th graders at other schools.
Yeah, because we had just gotten together because we had the heavyweights and the lightweights. Believe it or not, I was a lightweight back then. I'm definitely a heavyweight now. But back then, you know, we separated and then we got together as sophomores because we didn't have ninth grade in high school. Does Hopkins have ninth grade in high school now? I guess I don't even know that.
Yeah, no, I don't think they do, Hopkins.
Okay.
Everybody else does.
They still have like north and west as ninth graders? Okay.
I think so.
Well, you know, guys, one of the things that really sticks out for me, and Jason and I kind of emailed back and forth about this, and I'm curious to know if any of you remember this, but we kind of started slow sophomore year, right? In fact, our sophomore and senior years were very similar. We kind of came out of the gate pretty slow and then finished super strong. So I remember I think we lost our first game. We beat St. Louis Park, which I think was the first game any of us had won since 8th grade. And then lost our next couple games. And I remember Jefferson in particular blew us out pretty hard. And does anyone remember the day after we lost to Jefferson? Bakken and typically you play a sophomore game on Thursday and then Friday is, you know, a pretty light practice. But remember, he had us beat the hell out of each other for like a good 90 minutes. Does anyone remember that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty brutal because pretty bruised up from the game, and then it was like, and then that next day was like, you know, teach you a lesson, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
But you're right, Eric. It was we did get better, and some of us, I don't even remember, like what it was in junior high, what a record was, but it came, I thought it came together pretty quick because it was, you took a look around and say, hey, we got some good athletes here, and we all got along, we practiced hard, and it took a little bit of time. But I remember that, and I also remember a lot of yelling from him about that as well.
Well, remember Nelly left in an ambulance. Remember he had like pinched a nerve in his, and I asked Nelly to be on here, but he,
Jason Nelson?
Jason Nelson, yeah. Remember, like they like said, he was like visibly like twitching. He was in so much pain, and they just said, "You go over there by the fence." Like we were on the other side of the baseball field.
Yeah,
I'm the only guy that. Me and Tony are the only guys that remember that, huh?
I remember telling Steve Jerome, I think we both lost a bunch of brain cells.
Oh yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. Weren't they doing that where you lay helmet to helmet on your back and then pop up and run over each other?
I think so. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Question from
Yeah.
the
Well,
gallery.
the biggest guys on our team at that point were Tony and Steve, right? I mean, who was bigger than you two? Tony was he was a 10th grader at 6'3", 195. I don't even know what he was, but he was the strongest, biggest kid on the team. And then Steve was just a big kid. I'm trying to think who would have been the next biggest kid.
Joel
Pearson?
Murphy, maybe.
Yeah, Joel Murphy.
Pearson?
I think Pacheco
He was never big.
or Rob.
Pearson, Rob maybe, but Rob was never that big.
Hanson was
either.
up there.
Rob, were you bigger than Al?
I was probably same size.
Were you? You were both about 6'1", what, 6'1", 6'2"?
Yeah, like junior, I was like 230 and 6'1", and then senior year was like 215, 210.
You don't look like you're 230 anymore. Jeez.
No, well, I'm right around there. I haven't changed much.
I'm chiming in, guys. I'm chiming in with the peanut gallery. We have a lot of people watching, and Joel Murphy is here in the comments, and he claims he might have been. He says it was me. Maybe was Joel Murphy the biggest guy?
I don't remember him being that big. I mean, do you
Okay,
guys?
that's fair.
He was solid.
Him and Jerome.
I
Him
think
and
he was a
Jerome are like the
starting
two big.
Stout, shorter but stout.
Yeah.
I mean, like relative to me and like Tom or whatever, because the guy's 6 foot plus. So
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other question from the peanut gallery. We have about 15 people watching, so this is a question from a couple of people and myself. Who was the quarterback?
Well,
Travis
it was Clot.
Yeah.
I don't know if Clot was a quarterback as a sophomore though, was he?
I think he was. I think
He was.
Yeah. Wasn't Hockett too?
He played a little.
Hockett was a little bit, yeah.
Do you guys remember when Chris Clot got stung in the
McDonald's
ear?
son.
What's
You guys
that?
remember that?
What's that, Months?
When Chris
I know
Clot
that-
got
I know the
stung in the
quarterback.
ear? That bee went in his ear hole and stung him?
No, I don't.
Oh, my
You don't
God.
remember that?
No.
No.
oh,
I've told 1,000 people that story. It's a great story.
Right. Well, what I'm interested in is, and I want to get Mark Lamp involved in this.
Yes.
So
Uh-oh.
what like there lots of styles of football. What was the offensive style of Hopkins? And did it change from the transition from Bennettary to McDonald?
Oh,
You're giving us a lot of credit.
yeah. I remember I'm a defensive guy. I don't remember the offense too much.
Okay.
They were low scoring games. We
It's like
didn't
basketball.
really, whether that was our offense wasn't fantastic or our defense was fantastic, I'm not sure. But remembering back to sophomore year and even senior year, I mean, we didn't have too many games that were the other team scored over 30 points, right? In today's day, that's very different. So I don't really remember. I think it was a run first offense. I'd probably say that. Rob, you'd know, right?
Yeah.
And what would you say
And,
about that style, Rob? What was it? Smash mouth, run up the middle offense for the most part, or
Yeah, for the most part, up the middle and then sneak the guy around the outside. We didn't pass a whole lot, and if it went to Tony and Munson. You played tight end too, didn't you?
I only did when Al broke his finger. I ended up playing a little bit of tight end, but I was defense
Yeah.
But, you know, you had the guy that was our quarterback was a linebacker, right? Coach's son, and was a tough kid, but
Yeah, he was.
we just ran the ball.
We are so in our senior year, we did run the ball a ton, but we were kind of predictable. I don't know if you remember this, Rob, but the way that we had it work is you had 6 people on the offensive line, and we have 1 tight end, and then tackle, guard, and Rob. And what we would do is Al Pearson, Steve Jerome, Marco Chico were one side of the line, and me and Paul Jelinek were the other side. And the tight end, when they wanted to run to the right, they just moved the tight end to the right or to the left.
Yeah.
And you'd run up to the line and ready to block. And the other team would be going, they're going that way. Look where the tight is. We're going over there. And often what would happen is we'd have a play called, and I think Todd would just wrap Rob on the rear end and take off and run a quarterback sneak anyway, right? Wasn't that our play?
Yeah. Steve Jerome was probably the biggest guy too, now that I think about it. You bring his name up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we should go around the circle here and say how much we weighed as a senior in high school.
Oh boy.
You start.
I maybe weighed 185, 184. I don't know.
Well, Rich, as an offensive tackle, how much do you think you weighed as a senior?
175, maybe.
Yeah.
Rich may have been the smallest offensive tackle in the conference. I was very impressed with the way Rich went. Remember you blocked that kid from Apple Valley, Oberding, like his dad or his brother played in the NBA, and he was just, his calves were about that big, I remember.
Yeah, first game that I ever started, it was, and this was before we started flipping back and forth. The guy I had to block the entire game was his brother played in the NBA, and I just kept looking up as I was down in my how am I going to block this guy? But he didn't do anything. You know, he just stood there. It's easier to block when they're not interested in playing, and this guy didn't.
How about you, Jim?
Would I weigh?
Yeah.
Oh hell, I probably maybe 160 sopping wet, 155, something like that. I wasn't super big.
Rob?
About 215, 220.
You were in the 2s?
Mm-hmm.
So we must have had 3 guys on the line that weighed 200 pounds. Although I don't know what Murphy weighed.
Murphy played defense.
Murphy's, I'm reading.
He lined up in front of Matson.
Murphy says he was 250 pounds.
250?
That's what he says.
That wins.
I would believe that.
He's also insisting that the defense was good, and I mean, obviously we've got the linebacking core here. Eric, talk about what kind of defense it was that you played senior year, and what made you guys good, effective.
Well, I mean, it was, back then no one passed in high school football, or not a lot, right? So we only had 3 defensive backs. So it was we had 4 defensive linemen and then 4 linebackers. I think junior year we played a stack where you just lined up behind the guy, and then senior year it was a little bit of an offset. And I'm not sure why they did that, but really, I mean, the defense was kind of designed for the 4 down linemen would occupy the blockers, and the linebackers would get to run around and make a lot of the tackles. At least that's kind of what I felt like what it was like. And we had Joel was a great defensive lineman. John Cheddar, who was a year ahead of us, he was a junior. He started ahead of me. We had a bunch of guys come in and out of defensive end. Greg Peterman, Lesage, Eric Swenson, who was a junior, although he got hurt really early in the year. And it wasn't a super complicated scheme. I think it was just kind of set up to let people play. And, we had, the 2 guys who I thought really killed it senior year were Matson. I mean, Wade just had an amazing season. And he had played defensive end as a junior and then moved to inside linebacker. I don't know if he'd ever played linebacker before, but he was great. And Mike Case was kind of the anchor of the secondary at safety, and Case had an amazing season too. Both those guys.
You 2 went all conference, right? You and Matson. You and Matson.
Wade was definitely. I was only honorable mention, but again, okay. I think the defense was set up. I think you could have plugged a lot of guys into my spot and could have probably made a lot of tackles. So no, we had a good defense. In the offense, frankly, once we did we run a zone blocking scheme at the start of the year, guys? You linemen?
No, it was, mostly man on man.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember, we were struggling against senior year. And then at one point, I think Coach Mack just said, all right, guys, let's stop screwing around. Let's just get after them. And to your point, Rich, we started playing power football, and that's when we kind of turned it around.
I mean, there are things that I remember about the team, mostly hearing secondhand from the guys who played. And Rich used to talk about Bankston all the time. I went to school in Wisconsin and learned that there was a Paul Bankston, of course, who's a legendary Green Bay Packer. And I thought that, couldn't be the same health teacher with the colostomy bag who coached the offensive line for Hopkins High School.
Yeah.
But I remember Rich was very proud, and I hope you remember this, Rich. Rich was very proud of what Bankston said to you maybe after a game. Do you remember this quote?
I remember it exactly.
Okay.
We had a good game, and he wanted to tell us how proud he was of us. And so he was talking to the whole team, and he said, Pearson, Jerome, Pacheco, you're the best power side in the state. You guys are awesome. Lindstrom, Jelinek, you get in the way a lot.
Yeah. Get in the way.
Oh, great. But I'm here.
Yeah.
And I think it was after that. I never ran whatever play we had called because they were never running to my side. So it didn't matter that some slow defensive end was going to, come after the play. So I just give the shoulder to the defensive end and run out and hit the linebacker because, why bother? But I guess that was getting in the way a lot. So.
He mispronounced kids' names too, didn't he? Jesse Hellerud, he called, who was a junior, it wasn't like Helium, and John Cheddar was Chesnick. I mean, and at some point soon we should talk about Drone and Al, obviously. But I remember Drone wasn't there a time when Drone would walk around school imitating Bankston, he'd be passing from class to class, and he'd be like, Helium, Chesnick, and he'd have a whistle, and it was just this whole shtick. It was hilarious.
I don't know if you remember this. He, to the lineman in particular, and it happened more than once. And obviously we're 17, 18, whatever. He'd go, and you guys ever been in the military? And another one of his favorite things was, you, me, and God, right here, right now. Head on head. Beat the hell out of him. Rob, you probably remember that, don't you?
Yep.
Also, we were the hogs, right? You'd always call us the hogs.
Yeah.
And you'd say, the hogs are the smartest animal in the barnyard.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I think Drone wrote a song we're hogs from hell, we're gonna ring your bell, didn't he? I don't know if anyone remembers that. But.
I just
Well,
remember
tell us
around
about-
the world.
Yeah.
We've lost Drone and Al, but those are two guys who I just remember from high school as being both, just great characters and just genuinely, nice, kind guys and stuff. So Drone was a force of nature and clearly loved and lived football. Tell any of you guys have other memories of those two?
I can jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I played against, I went to Bethel College and played football there, and we played Hamlin, and Steve was a offensive lineman at Hamlin, so I got to play him for a couple of years that we played together. And as soon as we got done, I wouldn't say he got a lot bigger, heavier, but he just got stronger. But he would always come over and we'd sit and talk and just laugh about this kind of stuff, which is awesome. And, I hadn't seen him since, it would have been 1992 when we both graduated. I don't know what he did after that. I know his sister had passed away. She was a special needs gal. I went to elementary school with her, knew her very well. Her mom was a student assistant or something, but I knew the family very well. So that was a total shock to hear that he had passed away. Has anybody else, had they seen him after college?
Rich, you were really good friends with Steve, right? You were in touch with him the whole time.
Yeah, up until the last 3 or 4 years, probably I hadn't seen him before he died. He was a elementary school teacher, and
in the district, right?
No, I think in
Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Eric, I want to see if you remember this particular incident. I forgot who we were playing, but it was on a road game, and we were on a bus going there. And Steve and I were just cutting it up, and just trying to stay loose for the game, having fun. I don't even remember what we were saying, and I just remember you going, so I don't remember exactly what you said, but you were not happy that we were, kind of being lighthearted about it. You're like, focus and that type of stuff, and then we just, we decided, because you're an intense dude, we love that, and then I think it was Steve said something. And so your intensity, you tried to hide your smile and you couldn't do it because you switched like that. You were like, you guys gotta, and then you were like, oh, damn, and then you just totally lightened up. And we ended up, whoever that was, we ended up beating the living crap out of them on that day. And it was a good day. One other thing real quick about Steve, and I don't know if you guys will remember this or not, but we had a deal that we would not wash our practice jersey all year long, me and Steve. So
that was your basketball jersey, by the way.
it was pretty rank, and that was just something that we did together, and we kind of, our lockers, we were, getting ready by each other, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, it was, it was kind of a competition whose jersey could smell the worst, but that was just Steve being Steve.
Al did that all on his own, and he used to shove it in my face to have me test it. Every week.
Has anyone ever heard the Steve Drone, Ted Harrison story?
No.
All right, then I'll tell it. You guys know who Ted Harrison was, right? He was this huge kid who played for Cooper. He was a senior when we were seniors. Got a scholarship to the U. Ended up being a captain, I think, at the U. And if you remember, we played. We blew out Cooper senior year in their place. It was homecoming. It was the best game we played all year. We beat him 28-7. And Steve, he was kind of a loudmouth guy. I shouldn't say loudmouth, but he was boisterous and he was celebrating after. I'm sure he was saying, "Man, we kicked their ass. That was great." And I don't know, Steve lived up in Golden Valley, so I don't know if he was talking to people and because Golden Valley and Cooper were close. So I don't know if it was the next night or a couple of nights later, but the phone rings at Drone's house. Hello? Hey, you so-and-so of effing so-and-so, why are you saying that we suck and you kicked our butt and everything? And Steve says, who is this? And he says, it's Ted Harrison. Oh, God. And Steve's like, so? Well, you shouldn't be saying we kicked your ass. Steve's like, well, we did kick your ass. So, F off and hangs up the phone. And the next night, Steve gets another call. Hello? Steve? Yeah, it's Ted Harrison. Now, dude, what do you want? And he's like, well, I just want to apologize. I was really drunk last night. I was frustrated about the game, and I shouldn't have called and taken it out on you. But it was just, that's just Steve. And, Steve obviously was a really good player, but, standing up to a guy who we all thought was, sort of this, high school sports got covered in Minneapolis. I mean, you just knew about who these kids were that were going to the U. But that's probably my favorite Droner story. I'm surprised, Rich, that you hadn't heard that. But
I recall that
at some point. You do now? Okay. Yeah.
But do you remember what he used to do if we won?
Oh, God.
Songs on the bus.
Yeah.
Pop on the bus. This is just, we play at Metzhold Field or away, and we take the bus back. We'd all be on the bus, and Steve would hop on the bus and start Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog.
Yes, there it is.
Joy to the world.
Sing Joy to the World. So every time I hear that song, I
totally remember that.
Yep.
That's
I did
fantastic.
not realize he started that. And I remember being on the bus for the first time we won. I'm like, what the hell? What are we doing? And it was like Joy to the World. And it was like the happiest. It was so cool.
They didn't do that at Matter Day, Jim?
They did not. No, it was much different.
Eric brought this up when you were on last week, and I'm interested in talking about your experience. Obviously, your first sort of, wading into Hopkins High when you moved from California was football, and you had come from this sort of athletic powerhouse in Southern California, show up in Hopkins. Do you remember your first impressions of practice and what the team was like and thinking about what you got yourself into?
A little bit. It's just different, right? Like, you had a whole bunch of kids on that team, and you had, I don't know, 80, 90 kids or something like that. And just big just big kids, like Division 1 kids, and it was just different, which was so cool because we were super scrappy, and it was, I think it was where in California it was, I wouldn't say it was a job, but it was very focused and like, you know, very regimented. Not to suggest that we weren't, but there was definitely a lot of fun with this group, and practices were fun, and you know, Coach Bankston, for all the craziness, like he was hilarious, and so going out to practice and just having some fun was great, and it was different, but different in a super good way.
Hey, Jason,
Yeah.
you care if we ask real quick what happened when everybody left high school, where they went?
Go for it. That's great. Because I wanted to get into this too. A few of you played football in college, you know, at various places and had various experiences there. Maybe you can start, Tom, with Bethel.
Really quick, boring. Went to Bethel College, played football there, and until '92, and then I don't know, got married pretty quick after that. Moving on.
Well, but tell me about when you showed up at Bethel to play college football. Did you feel like Hopkins had prepared you for that, and you held your own?
You know, I went from defense to offense, and I was back then Bethel was more of like a 13th grade. I always say it was like a high school team. Nowadays, it's an institution where guys are 300 pounds and all that stuff. It wasn't that way when I played. You know, I was 219 pounds as a tight end. Now these guys are 270. I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to keep playing. Got to keep going to practice and hanging out with the guys, and loved it. But you know, it made my college career more fun, I guess.
Brian, you were talking about this a little bit last week. What was it like at South Dakota?
Well, being Division II, it was a little bit more intense. But you know, the one thing that Hopkins kind of taught us, and going to a really big high school like we did, you know, I went to college with a bunch of kids that went to smaller schools, so they were always like the big fish, right? And coming from, you know, a Hopkins where you had 650 kids in our graduating class, and knowing that, you know, as a sophomore, you played on the sophomore team, and maybe on your junior year, you got to play little special teams, or if you were lucky enough, you got to start maybe a little bit as a junior. But then, you know, as a senior, then that was your time to shine. And knowing you had to go through kind of that progression, that was, you know, I just kind of expected, hey, I'm going to come out here as a freshman and I'm not going to do much. And just know that I'm going to have to put in the time and put in the effort. And I think, you know, when I started, there were 40 kids in our freshman class, and I think we graduated with 8. So it just kind of, you know, just the attrition and just having to go through that regular grind day after day. And that's kind of what high school football prepared you for. So.
Did you play against anybody who went into the NFL when you were at South Dakota? Was there anybody?
Yeah, there's a couple. So Adam Bennettary, so yeah, he played at South Dakota State when I was there. His brother actually kicked for us for a while. He was terrible. Sorry, whatever you are, Bennettary. But he didn't last very long. I don't know if you guys remember, you know, I think our senior year we played Roseville, right? As a scrimmage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a scrimmage. We played against Rod Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Rod's brother Todd played for us there too.
Mm-hmm.
So we had quite a few kids from the Twin Cities area that you ended up playing against. And I think Eric, you know, somebody brought up Swenson. Swenson played at North Dakota. Got to see him. There's a handful of guys that got at least tryouts or went to, you know, a couple of camps, but it wasn't many.
Eric, what was explain your college football experience?
I like to tell people that I played adjective sports in college, right? I played JV hockey for a year, and I played lightweight or sprint football. Now, I went to Princeton, and believe it or not, I actually and I kind of recruited myself, but I did get help getting in to play on this. It was called, back then it was lightweight football, now it's called sprint football. And basically, it was, you know, it was a varsity sport, although it wasn't very well run. It was about as close it was about as close to a club sport as you could get on a varsity sport, if that, you know, gives you a sense of how intense it was. But you'd have to get on the scale 2 days before the game and weigh 158 or less. And I mean that, I skipped breakfast, and that worked for me because that's kind of what my natural weight was. But we would have guys who would suck weight down from like 180. I mean, I remember the first time I saw, and funny, one of our biggest players freshman year was a wide receiver. And I remember, seeing him, weigh in it. It was like most of us would do it around lunchtime. And I was actually a little shook up at just how like gaunt and pale, and he looked like he was about to pass out. And I was just like, man, this guy really wants to play. But it was fun. Like I said, it got me into school, but I didn't think it was any better run than our high school program. In fact, I don't know if, and Rich, you and I talked about this a little bit in high school, but like the football pants we wore in high school still to this day might be the nicest pair of athletic equipment I've ever had. Those things were so great. They were stretchy and comfy, and they were nice. I mean, I had better gear in high school than I did in college. It was, but again, I'm glad I did it, but it certainly wasn't the highlight of my 4 years there. Put it that
Eric, what school was this? I'm sorry, I was at
Princeton.
Oh, okay.
And you played against like
Case.
The Ivy League Case at Penn.
Yeah, Mike Case. It was when I was there. It was Army, Navy, Cornell, Penn, and Princeton. Rutgers had a team my freshman year, and they dropped. They dropped the program after that. The service academies were, they'd roll out 150 kids because you have to play sports there. Case played on a couple of good Penn teams. It's funny though. Now there are actually colleges out there where that's their only football team because it's just cheaper to do. Because it's so like there's like Mansfield University in Pennsylvania. Their only football team is their sprint football team. Princeton actually dropped the program. They kind of starved the program. And kind of cut off all the support. The program just kind of withered and died.
Did anybody else play football after high school? And like, by the way, like flag football counts.
I did rugby up at UMD.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, for 5 years up there.
So what position did you play, and how was that? And do you have any horrific injuries to report?
I played second row. I got hit pretty good. I had to get a splenectomy after one of our games. So yeah, the spleen broke out the aorta, and it was kind of, my gut was filling up with blood. So they took me in the hospital. But
Jeez.
Yeah,
Yikes.
there's no not a lot of pads in that one. So
No.
No. Guessing you didn't miss a practice though. They cut you,
right.
got right back in next practice.
Smelling salts.
Rob, I'm glad you survived your splenectomy. Heather Thorson is here, and she wanted to share what she thinks was your greatest post-high school sports accomplishment. Heather writes, Rob Reed's biggest athletic accomplishment was playing in the Adam Cook, Matt's brother, annual charity golf foursome with his brother, me, and Ross Olson dressed in togas.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Is there any way there's video of this?
Thank God it was before that, right?
I want to see video of that.
That's fantastic.
No, that was always good because we'd always had the fantasy football draft the Friday before Cook's brothers golf thing, and so everybody was a little haggard going out there anyway. So
Lampert, did you play football at Carthage, or was it baseball?
So I played baseball for a short period of time, and then decided I wanted to, I met a guy from Chicago. We started a club hockey team at Carthage.
Oh, cool.
So I spent about half a year playing baseball, and then we had an idea for a club hockey team. We sold it to the university, raised the money, started recruiting players, and it was a ton of fun. And now it's still going. So I think that's going to become a D3 sport for Carthage, but it was really the road trips that were the great time. We traveled all around the Midwest and stayed in cheap hotels and had a lot of fun. So they entrusted us with a lot of company college vehicles, if you will. So there's a lot of stories there.
What could go wrong?
Sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right, so Burbank at the U, aside from hosting apparently epic parties with Tony Ceruno in the dorms, did you continue your athletic career in any respect there?
I really wanted to, but these guys will remember, I blew my knee out very early my senior year, and it took a long time to recover. I mean, it was one of those, if you don't want to throw up, don't look type things. I actually went up and I watched the video of the game because I wanted to see what happened. And it took, I probably couldn't feel the bottom half of my leg for about 2 years, maybe about 10%, because it literally tore all the nerves. That's what the doctor said, is that it's such an impact and a tear that it killed all the nerves, and it took time for them to regenerate. By the time it did, I was too far into school. I was working. I was at the U of M. I hung out with and lived with a lot of the U of M football players. Thought about maybe going, trying to walk on anything, and then it's like, yeah, these guys are really good. And then I kept seeing, actually in the dorm that I lived in, on the same floor with the football players, I kept seeing more and more of them blow their knees out. And so it's like, I mean, I'm a young guy and I had a severe leg injury, and it took 2 years to recover from. And then my friends, the football players there, and I was like, I'm not going to risk having 2 blown out knees, perhaps either on the same one or different knees. And so then life just went on, and I ended up playing basically a lot of basketball after that.
Burbeck, I'm remembering this now. We talked about this with Jim last week, but now that you mention it, I didn't remember it until just now, but you were one of these guys who crutched around our high school, right? With some massive knee brace on.
Yeah. For a long time. It was a full leg cast. And then it transitioned into one of those little bionic looking things. And, it just, I mean, the technology for the surgery and all that stuff, and the rehab, not as good as it was today. And it was just one of those unfortunate things. I'd never been hurt my entire life other than bruises. And all of a sudden, boom, on one play, the career just ended. I
don't remember you ever missing a game though.
No, it happened it was our homecoming game our senior year. And it happened, I want to say, in the first or second quarter. And I played the entire game on it.
Oh.
And it was so violent that, and I knew something was wrong, because like, how come I can't get any power out of my leg? But I had no pain. And then later on, it was at the dance or whatever afterwards, where it's like, holy crap, this thing is just swelling up. And so then the next day I ended up going to the doctor, and he's like, it was one of those things where, and Jim, you probably know this, where they hold your leg and see if it moves, and mine's swung out at about a 90-degree angle, and the doctor is like, you're done. So
still were ready for basketball though.
I was I say it was our homecoming game, which was like, what, the second, third game of the year?
Well, that brings up an interesting question that a couple of the audience members have brought up, which might be a little sensitive for you guys. Which was our senior year game, homecoming game, a football game or a soccer game?
Soccer.
But there was a reason for that.
And we had an away game.
Yes, we did.
And it's a away game, that's right.
But it's funny, because I went back and trust me, as someone who part of my job is to schedule athletic events, there would have been a way around that. George Reynolds could have gone to the Lake Conference and said, hey, we have this problem. Can you help? What can we do to fix this? And who knows, maybe he did. And, they said, no, we're not going to do anything. But our first game of the year was before school. Our first home game of the year was before school started, right? That can't be homecoming. Our second game was the first week of school, which was only a 4-day week. That can't be homecoming. Our last home game was a Wednesday night game. Remember, we played Edina at home. That can't be homecoming. So we had one Friday night homecoming game in September, and it happened to be Rosh Hashanah. And, I think it was the right call to not have it be homecoming. But yeah, that one stung. I don't know, but did you guys ever feel like there was a little bit of a rivalry with the soccer team that we had? Or was that just me?
Yeah, there was. Because they took a lot of good kids.
Yeah,
I don't know, Eric, do you remember playing in 9th grade when we played North versus West? You guys remember that game? The North versus West game? What?
Yeah, it was really cold.
And I think we wore out the whole field between the 40s. And I think we just, it was just, nope, 4th down, give them the ball. And we just wore that area out just between. So that was always the part that sucks. There's some good guys that we lost to soccer in junior high. So yeah, I think there was a little bit of a rivalry with soccer because we lost some guys that were pretty good football players at soccer those years.
Well, I was going to ask Rob this question because Dave Green got on yesterday and was gloating about the fact that homecoming was a soccer game and that they had beat. Did you hear this from these guys that, Steiner?
For years after that, you get Steiner, Wandry, Cook, Greener, all those guys would just rub it in every time. Like every fantasy football draft. Yeah, we had the only soccer game for a varsity homecoming, right? I don't think that happened before anywhere after that. I'm like, what is going on?
What? Has that ever happened since?
Well, I don't think so.
Who? Jason, should we go to the Falcon Head story?
Yes,
and
please.
SMU. So how many of you were at the Armstrong volleyball game our senior year? It was the regional final, super intense game. They lost, but if you remember, Mark Mengi, who said he was trying to impress a girl. I hope it worked. I think I might know who the girl is, but I'm not sure. But the Falcon mascot took off its head to take a sip of water.
You guys don't remember this?
Yeah, you guys. Maybe they weren't there.
I think I do remember this. Go on there.
Mengi grabs the Falcon head. Watch his show.
That was Mengi?
It was Mark Mengi. He grabs the Falcon head, runs out of the hallway into the gym, holding it above his head, throws it into the stands. Right. And as Mark said on his KHOP show, I thought it would get batted around a little bit and it would come back to me and I'd give it to the guy and it would be a big joke. What made its way up to a couple of football players, I specifically remember Wade Matson, which I wish Wade was on here, and Greg Dykoff. And literally the thing was a pile of feathers in about 5 seconds. So they destroyed the Falcon head.
Mengi is now a cancer doctor, right?
But even better,
that is awesome.
Rich, you talked about, has anyone ever had soccer for homecoming? And sorry, guys, this is a long story, but I wanted to tell it when I was on with Jason by myself. SMU, you guys, we were all football fans in middle school and early high school. SMU had a great team throughout the 80s, but they were so dirty and they paid so many players that eventually the NCAA said to them, you're done. They gave him the death penalty, right? They said, you can't have a football team for X number of years. And I think the first year that happened was our senior year. So there was, it got a little play in the national press that Southern Methodist University down in Dallas had soccer for homecoming. So George Reynolds, the AD, kind of marches up to the stands and, kind of starts tisking, and I don't think he really knew who had done it, but, he starts, doing his thing. And Wade, I think Wade may have started this, starts chanting SMU, SMU, SMU. And Reynolds just put his head down, turned around and walked away. The coda to that story. And I thought that SMU thing, literally, that's one of my probably 10 favorite memories from high school. I just thought that was so funny. But Mark Mengi ended up spending $300 or $400 out of his own pocket to get a new Falcon head. And, I found out about this right as we were graduating. I remember thinking, I wish I knew, because, we're stand-up guys. I would think we would have passed the hat and, and done our part. Everyone kicks in $20. 20 of us kick in $20 and it's covered, right? Because he was just having fun. And then we elevated it. So next time you see Mark Mengi at a reunion, or if you're Mark Mengi never buys a drink at another Hopkins High School reunion. Trust me.
That's a good resolution to have out of this.
That's
Mengi
awesome.
Never buys a drink at a reunion.
And I don't even know if Mark, if Mark's a drinker, but he 7-Up, whatever. He doesn't buy drink.
Yeah.
I do think as a completely objective observer in all of this, the fact that homecoming was a soccer game and not a football game was of no consequence to me at all. It didn't matter to me. It wasn't a big deal. I do think it's hilarious though that soccer players and football players are still added on this 30 plus years later, that you guys are still going at it.
And I'm sorry, I'm sucking a lot of oxygen here, but let me, I started having it up for the soccer team. I had Ron Selno for sophomore math. And I don't know if I've ever told you any of the story. Rich, you're kind of wincing, so maybe I did. But if you remember, last game of our sophomore year, we beat Park Center pretty handily. And Mr. Selno knew that I played football, so he saw me the next day in class. He said, "How was your game yesterday?" I said, "We won." He said, "Well, what was the score?" I said, like 21-7. He said, "Oh, really?" He said, I think Park Center, they probably have their best sophomores play JV. Sort of implying that we had just beat the B team. And you're 16 years old and it's your teacher. But I remember, I don't know if I told my dad about it or somehow it came up a couple of months later. I just remember thinking, what a
Oh my God.
hockey prick.
Okay,
Yeah,
It was abrasive.
Lamp, do you remember this? Was there animosity between the football team and the soccer team?
it was good natured, but
Yeah, it was. Yeah, nothing. I mean, nothing else that I can really add here. I mean, I remember Peter Fisher on the soccer team. He'd give it to us, and Steiner. They'd give it to us quite a bit. So old wounds coming up about homecoming for sure.
Yeah.
They didn't have any better a season than we did senior year. They were
That's right,
basically
right.
a 500
better.
team, and they were the fourth seed in the regions too, just like we were.
That's right.
We had the same season senior year. Seriously, read the yearbook.
Hey, Jason,
Yeah.
before we sign off, can we talk about anybody that needs some more prayers? Like Peter Fisher needs some prayers about his situation.
Yeah, you want to update us? We talked about Pete a little bit on the hockey show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he calls me like once a week or texts me once a week, and he's doing good. It sounds like his numbers are down, but just keep in your minds. That's all.
I
Is there anything
appreciate
else
that.
you guys know?
Not that I can think of right now.
Would we be remiss in not talking about Coach Mack before we?
Coach who?
Coach McDonald.
Oh,
We are the first class that played for him for 2 years.
Yeah,
I know
let's
both-
bring in Jim on this. Talk about when what were your impressions of Coach Mack when he took over?
I thought he was great. I think we were year one together. And so I think we had a little bit of that bond going on. And, probably like me, he probably showed up and go, okay, what do we have? What don't we have kind of thing. And so I thought he was.
you look like a coach's wet dream, just so you know.
What's with the hair or what?
Oh, okay.
I think he was fantastic personally. And I know we didn't have, we didn't go undefeated and all that good stuff, but I thought he was pretty patient. Most games, there was one game I remember, I'll tell you a funny story. You guys probably remember this. It was the Edina game, our junior year. And I don't know what the score was, but we came in at halftime and we were getting our tails kicked. And it was colder than hell. And I think it was the first game in Minnesota for me. And I'm like, holy shit. Like it was freezing. So, I knew it was going to be cold. So I put on like 18 layers of like whatever I had in the house or something, long johns or whatever. And we come in at halftime. He's like, you guys are a bunch of F and this and that. And you guys are soft because you're all wearing like long johns. And I remember sitting in the back going, that's me. I couldn't get out of that room fast enough. I'm like, I think he's talking to me.
Well, no, Jim, wasn't it?
So bad.
Because you were actually playing. You started, but some guys, a lot of the guys who weren't playing went, and they have those hand, those hair dryers. You push the metal thing and the heat comes out. A lot of guys went and they were warming their hands. A lot of the bench guys.
Yeah.
That was probably me too. I couldn't feel anything.
But you were at least, that's the maddest I've ever seen him.
Oh,
he was like, if you guys were engaged in the game and you were clapping and you were cheering, you wouldn't have to warm your. Like I said, it's the maddest I ever saw him.
It was, yeah. Which for him was a big thing because he was pretty flatline most of the time. He would kind of bite his lip and not say a whole bunch and give it one of that. But he was a great guy. Coach Mack's a great guy.
Brian, what did Mack bring to the program that was new and different, and how did it change?
I think he just brought a whole different level of intensity. I don't know if you guys remember this when we were in sophomores, and I think we got to dress for a couple of the games, or varsity games, and Bennettary came in and said, "Hey," because we had to sell pizzas that year, and so one of like the pregame speeches was about, "Hey, make sure you get your pizza money in before we," and so it was just kind of like, well, So Mack just brought this whole different mentality. I mean, it was a lot more intense, I thought, and I thought you just brought this toughness. You know, the Edina story was great. He just kind of brought a level of toughness for us that I think we kind of needed in a sense.
Yeah,
Rob, do you have that impression as well, that Mack was just a tougher coach?
Yeah, he was a little intense when he came out too. You know, he was kind of mild mannered, but when it really counted, he wanted to go get him. You know, so yeah, he was a good coach.
His big saying was always eyeball to eyeball, nose to nose, and titty to titty.
That's right.
I'm the only guy that has gray hair here.
I do.
I do too.
I'm pretty gray.
We're all,
pretty
yeah,
great.
it's all, yeah. It just, you've got
That makes
more
me
maybe.
sad. Jim, not you. I get it.
I do. I just shave it. It's just gone. So it's all great. It's all great, Tommy, if I let it go. I'm thinking about the ponytail in the back, but I haven't got there yet. It'd be great.
Ols, how did you end up moving from corner? Because one of the things I thought was great about Coach, and I mentioned how he moved Wade from defensive end, and I don't think Wade had ever played linebacker before. At least I remember playing with him at West.
Didn't matter.
And he was
Wade can
incredible.
play anywhere.
Yeah. But Ols, you moved from corner to linebacker. Was Coach Mack behind that, or how did that happen?
Yeah, actually it was. So Todd and I were pretty good friends, and you know, I wasn't really super happy with how much I got to play my junior year. So Jim and I spent a lot of time in the weight room, and Todd was in the weight room. And so I probably put on 20 pounds of muscle from my junior year to my senior year. And Coach Mack kind of came over and said, "Hey, why don't you come and try to play linebacker instead of, you know, because we had pretty good corners." And so he said, "Why don't you come and try to play linebacker?" So that just ended up being that was a spot that I always wanted to play anyway. So I always like to tackle people. So.
Specific question for Brian. Todd Finn checked in with me the other day. He was He works a night shift. He reluctantly can't watch live, but he'll catch up with us. But Brian, he said that you came up with the names Finn and Finnegan. And do you remember which of the Finn boys was Finn and which was Finnegan?
I don't, but I do remember that. Yeah, I don't remember who was who.
Todd claims he was Finn and Troy was Finnegan.
Finn and Finnegan. That's
Troy
right. Yeah.
is watching, I'm sure, and he will tell us or maybe correct us if that's.
Did they both play as seniors or no?
I think one of the brothers did. I can't remember which one. But.
We'll maybe get that fact check here too.
Yeah, you know, Jim, I thought, you know, when on your show last week, I thought it was really on point when you talked about how Coach Mack kind of always had the right thing to say.
Big one.
You know, I remember before the Cooper game, and I'm not a big believer in pregame speeches are going to change how you play, but I remember he said something like, you know, guys, when you're getting together in 10, 20, and 30 years, this is what you'll talk about. And at the time we were 1-4, right? The season was going down the toilet, and we won that game and then won our last 3 games. And, you know, again, I just thought that was just really the right thing to say at the right time. And then at the end of that game, and I was hoping to get Joel Murray on, but I couldn't track him down. But if you remember I think Joel started, Jim, after you. I think Joel started the last game junior year after you tore your knee up. But senior year, somehow, I think Scott Hanks had beat him out for the running back job. And I think Joel almost quit. And I think Ken talked him into, hey, stick around, you know, things can happen. And then that Cooper game, Scott didn't play. And Joel just had a great game. I scored at least 1 or 2 touchdowns, had almost 100 yards rushing. I remember at the end of the game, and this is one of my favorite moments from that season. And you know, Joel and I didn't know each other all that well, you know, other than just, you know, kind of say hey in the locker room. But Ken pulled Joel aside, kind of put his arm around him and said, "Hey, Joel, things have a funny way of working out, don't they, buddy?" And I just thought that was so cool to, you know, kind of for him to be able to share that moment with Joel, and knowing that he had, you know, I think he had encouraged him to stick around. I just thought that was fantastic.
That's probably something Joel remembers to this day, right? Like if you were to ask him, I'm sure he would remember that like it was yesterday. That's cool.
You know, we're winding down here a little bit, but it occurred to me, I was thinking about this a little bit. One of my favorite books ever is Friday Night Lights, for a variety of reasons, just like a brilliant book, but it really just captures high school football in Texas. And playing high school football in America is like sort of a singular experience. Like there's really nothing like it there. You know, Rob, you played rugby, but even if you compared it to schoolboy rugby in Europe or whatever, it's nothing like high school football. How often do you guys remember stuff from high school football? Does it come up, you meet other guys who played football and you start BSing and talking? How much of, to the point that you just made, Eric, you'll remember this 30 years from now. How true is that? How much a part of your high school football experience is still with you? Tony, maybe you can go first on that.
Yeah, it's a big part in a couple different ways. Every time I see a foot-long scar on the inseam of my leg, I remember it quite well. The other part of it is just the camaraderie. We had a lot of fun and a lot of good guys. That's the second part of it. And also just remember the just being able to be, physical and just having the competition. Like Bankston used to say, it's just me and you right here, right now. And you would have, 2 hours to see who the bigger, badder, tougher guy was. And that was fun. And also just the competition as well, and meeting new guys. Like I still remember the first time I saw Jim Keane. I think it was at the stadium in Hopkins. I'm like, who's this guy running around? He's fast as shit, And it's like
bald already.
On our team, And then you get to know the guy, and then memories do come back, just from time to time. But when you look back at your life, you go, that was meaningful. That was good stuff. Those were good moments.
Tony, where'd you go to after high school?
University of Minnesota.
Oh.
Yep.
All 4 years?
Yeah. It took about, 5, I think it took about 5 years to graduate. Yeah.
My wife too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I was. Actually, I grew up before I ended up moving to Golden Valley. I lived pretty much right on the campus of the University of Minnesota in an area called Stadium Village. Actually, my old house that I lived in as a little kid is now the site of a dorm. So I kind of grew up around that area, and I knew that that's where I wanted to go, and that's where I ended up going.
How many of us cried after we lost to Kennedy? Come on, be brave now. I cried after our hockey season ended. I did not cry after our football season ended. But who cried?
Well, you hockey guys are pussies.
Just Munson? Munson's the only guy who will fess up?
Maybe a little bit, Haugen.
Okay.
Was that a playoff game or was that a regular season?
It was playoff.
Playoff game, yeah.
I think that was the first playoff game Hopkins ever played in football.
Yeah.
No, the Friday Night Lights story. So when the pandemic started, we as a family, we watched Friday Night Lights first to last scene. And I talked to my son, who's a freshman, about what football experience I had with a great group of guys, a lot of road trips. We traveled everywhere we went. We were always on a bus, right, with our home field being at Hopkins. And just a great group of guys. And so he's now he played freshman football. They had a spring season here in Madison. And so cornerback, wide receiver, even kick for them. He's a soccer player also. But it just stuck with me through, Friday nights. And Eric, as you said, we didn't have a ton of Friday night games our senior year, but football in general with that great group of guys, it stuck with me my whole life. And now he's getting a chance to go through that, which is pretty cool.
I think it's who was ridden in Lamps' big gray monster, that car you had.
Yeah, it died. Oh yeah.
Biggest car I've ever ridden in.
What was the make and model on that deal?
72 Buick LeSabre that could fit 10 of your closest friends
easily,
and did. Tommy, that car died on the side of the road. I think we had to walk away from it, but only about 290,000 miles on it. So great car.
I was thinking when you asking that question, Jason, I can't remember the result of any game that we played. I mean, maybe like the last one that we lost, but I don't know the scores. I just remember what you guys are saying, the guys, the getting on the bus after we won and singing, joking around with Jerome or joking around with everyone, making comments after Bankston said something stupid, kind of looking at each other and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." You know, just all that sort of stuff is what sticks with me. None of the results of the game, you know. And the last time I played football at Hopkins High was the last time I ever played football. You know, I mean, but it wasn't the last time I cross country skied or ran or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Football is when you do it on the team and then it's over for you. It isn't like any other sport, you know. Not
right.
It's a pretty magical thing, right? Because you know, you dress out. I remember to this day, every single game, having butterflies, and you get off the bus and you stretch, and the lights sort of, you know, start to take effect, and then you look up, and even though we weren't particularly fantastic every single year, people still came, and parents came, and friends came, and you always wanted to do right and wear that jersey for everybody in that school, because you knew you had to show up at school the next day. And Eric, like you were saying, teachers are asking how you made out, and you know, did you turn out okay, and you know, are you healthy and all that stuff. And it's just it's such a pride thing. And then when you go through that with a bunch of brothers, and you know, because hell, you get, Robbie, you called it out, right? 2-a-days or whatever, you get beat to hell. And to be able to do that in a way that, you know, again, not everything's going to turn out to be a win, or Rich, maybe we don't even remember the scores or whatever, but just knowing that you got a bunch of people around you that you've been in the trenches with, you can't replicate that. And I never, you know, I never found that in baseball necessarily, and other sports. And it's different, Jason, to your point, like it's different in football. It's truly magical. And it's one of those things that you can't get back, you know, unfortunately.
You've always been more of a baseball guy, right, than football?
Yeah, I played. I went to the University of San Diego and played baseball down there. But heck, I love football. Like I don't know what would have happened if I probably could have played somewhere at a smaller school. You know, like gone and played somewhere. But it all worked out. But yeah, it's special, and it's special to go through with a bunch of great guys like this. You know, brothers that you battle with, and it's pretty special. I get goosebumps thinking about it now.
Anybody else have anything to add on that note? Who still has their letter jacket intact? Does anybody ever? There's a guy who lives across the street from me. He's like a 72-year-old Tai Chi instructor. And sometimes he'll put he went to Minneapolis Roosevelt High School, and he sometimes wears his Roosevelt letter jacket. It's pretty funny.
I still have my letter. I don't have the jacket. I don't know what the hell happened to the jacket. I got the letter, but I don't know what don't ask. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, you guys, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and reliving some of these great memories. It was really fun to hear about that stuff from you guys. Marnie, this is the moment when we tell people who's on next week.
I'm ready. Well, I just want to say thank you to all 8 of you for coming in our audience. It's really, everyone is so impressive, and I really appreciate you all sharing your stories, and whatever shreds of memory come and go. I really appreciate that. I'm ready, Jason. Get ready for next week. Next week, I'm turning 50.
Hey, happy early birthday.
So we will have the Marty Glickman birthday party show. Our special guest is Dina Barron-Smith, live from DC. She's been working in Congress for many years, and she and I and Kathy Cheetah and Doug Robertson will be shooting the shit and doing some Marnie trivia. Jason's gonna be on vacation, but he deserves it. After that, May 25th, we have Mike Hance live from Mexico.
Marnie?
I'm still hoping he will recruit a mariachi band. June 1st, Ted Shore, help me out.
Sjogren. Marnie?
Yeah.
Can you make sure you send out the emails? Because I haven't talked to Lamp in forever, and Rob.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. We will all make sure. And we'll have Eric might do that as our sport correspondent.
Now I'm just sports I thought it was special correspondent. I've been
downgraded. Special for everything. Thank you.
Relegated.
June 15th, Linda Schneewind and Carrie Silvernagel. And there's lots of you who will hear from me soon, because we are entering year 2 of KHOP88. And there's many of you that we still need to rope into this.
You're doing a great job.
Impressive.
Amazing job. Jason, I don't know
So
you that
fun.
well, but you've done a great job.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks again, you guys. We'll talk to all of you soon, hopefully. And yeah, if we keep some of you guys in touch as a result of this, that'll be fantastic. Lamper, we're gonna get together for a Plaza Burger or something.
You're on. Can't wait.
You know what I like, that
Colorado,
the
let me
Village
know.
Green out in Middleton. That place is great.
Very close by.
All right,
Yeah.
we're doing it.
You got it.
Take care, everybody.
you.
All
See
right,
you
thank
everybody
you.
next
Thanks,
week.
guys. Great
Good
to
to
see you.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.